Hey, what's up guys, it's Theo from Fino Concept. So about a week ago, I stumbled upon a handover ceremony organized by Grassack, and I felt that design really stood out to me. So in this video, I'm going to show you how the designer created it using Adobe Photoshop. So hopefully you may get a thing or two from this tutorial. Let's just get started. Welcome to Fino Concept. Click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out on any of our future videos. Alright, as always, I'm using Photoshop CC 2019. I haven't actually found the need to upgrade yet. So I'll go to create new and select presets. I'm just going with the A4 and I'll just click on create. But I think it would be much better if I use the square in case anyone wants to put it on their social media platforms like Instagram or WhatsApp status or something like that. I think 1 by 1 is much accepted worldwide, so that one will be what I'll be using for this. So I think this is looking cool. So what I'm going to do is bring up the rulers by holding down Control and pressing R, and you can see that from here that the rulers will show. And the next thing is I'll just click and drag from the edge and place it at the center like so, and it's going to snap in for me. Now from the design, they didn't really use a lot of images, so this makes it ideal for whichever program you want to use this for. I think you get what I mean once we are done with this. So what I'll do is I'll grab the ellipse tool. Right clicking on the shapes tool should give you more options. So grabbing the ellipse tool, and I'll create a big circle whilst holding down the shift key also, so that it doesn't really distort as much. So something like this isn't what I want. But before that, let's just double click and select a blue color or whichever color you want to use for this. I'll just be using a blue color, and I'll just click on OK. Now let's zoom out using the zoom tool, Z on our keyboard, and I'll make this much bigger. I think about this big should be fine, or probably increase it much more. Yeah, I think something like this is okay. Now if I fit this to screen, the reason why I do this is I want a nice curve down here. If I make it much smaller, you realize that the arc is much deeper because it is a smaller circle, and I think actually I want it to be much smaller. Yeah, so the arc is looking like this. You probably can see because I'm already zoomed in. So if I make it zoomed out and I reduce it, you can see that it's much steeper this way. So let's fit it to screen one more time. So I'll be adding the bunch of information. I don't actually want to use the logo for Grassack, so if you are interested in doing that, you can grab it from the internet somewhere. So the name, as always, is Graduate Students Association of Ghana, something like this, and I'll make sure it is set to center or left align or anything of that sort. Depending on what you are using this for, you can always go with that. Now this time around, I'm going with the Gotham font. I think that one looks cool for most corporate work, and I'll select the character options. If you don't have that, just go to window and make sure that character is checked. And once I have that, I have this VA over here. This refers to the spacing between every text I have in here. So if I go ahead and reduce it, you can see that it's much closer to each other. Increase its mass spaced out. So I'll just make it about 50 or -70. I think -70 is cool. Then I'll reduce the size to whichever size I want, and I'll place it somewhere around here. Now black isn't ideal for this, so what I'll do is I'll change the color to white, and I'm also not going with the light version. I'll probably use book or regular if you have that. So this is a good start. Let's go ahead and save this up. Let's call this Untitled 2. Now once I have this, I have to add in the rest of the information. This I'm going to call the main information. So that's going to be Grassack National Handover. I don't get why people say handing over. I believe the correct term is handover. So anyone who is doing this should say handover. I don't know if I actually said handover at the beginning of this tutorial. If I did say handing over, I really apologize for that. So this is what I have now. Obviously I can't leave it as this, so what I'll do is I'll be changing a couple of information in here. The first one is going to be the handover. Obviously I'm not going with this, so I'll probably choose the bold version and make it quite huge, about this big. About 48 points should be just fine. And once I have that, I also want them to be closer to each other, so I'll move over here, still in the character options, where we have the A on top and A below. What this does is it refers to the spacing between the text above and the text below. So if I move it over to the left, you see that they get closer to each other. I think something like this is fine. 35 looks okay, so I'll probably select 36 for that, and I think that one will look cool. Then I'll move over to the Senate, and I'll probably also make it the exact same thing. So I've forgotten the font I use, 48. So I'll make this also 48 font size actually, and make this also bold. And I'll also change this to 36 so that it can better match what I have over here. You don't really have to separate this handover. You can make it the same, like hand version. I don't know how you want this, but I feel handover like this is okay. Conveying the message is more important to me. So I'll also make this a bold version, and I'll add in a rectangle at the back of this just to make this a little bit different. Now if I go over to the shapes options or the shapes tool, I can right click and go to rectangle tool. Let's zoom out first. Zoom in first. You can use U to bring up the shape tool, the recent shapes tool, and I'll create a rectangle like so. Then probably use the move tool to place it at the center, so you can have it at the center like this. Now this is going to be beneath my text, and since the text is white and the shape is also white, you can hardly see. So what I'm going to do is, let me hide this for a second. I'll grab the type tool one more time, and I'll change the color of this. So I'll click on the text color up here and select this blue color from the background. So once I have that, now I can bring my rectangle back into view, and see, this is what we have. Neat. Now with the original design, there are a bunch of other lines, so I can also use the line tool for that. I believe this is actually together, so something like this looks okay. I'll bring the rectangle to the top like so. Now let's go back to the lines tool. Now the weight is set to 5, so if 5 pixel, if I draw a line like this, you can see this is how big it's going to be. Let's delete that and select any. So that means if I make it 50 and I draw a line, it should be much bigger. This is what it means. So what I'm going to do is, I think the 5 looked okay, so I'd rather go with the 5, or probably around 3. I think I'll go with 3 instead. Now once drawing, I'll still hold down the shift key so that I get a perfect horizontal line instead of it looking all weird. On the right hand side of my cursor, you can see the angles and the length all in inches and degrees. So I'll hold down the shift key so that it remains at a 0 degree angle. I think something like this is okay. Now I'll use the move tool to place it around here, and I'll create a duplicate, Control J, and I'll place the second one somewhere around here. I can also just go ahead and stretch it up if this isn't looking ideal for me. Let me zoom in, move to, I can stretch it out to something like this, and I think this is okay. So once I have this, let me go ahead and select. So 1, 2, 3. Alright, I'll go ahead and select the entire information here. Control G to group them up and call this probably main info. Now I'm going to create a duplicate of the main info, Control J, and I'll hide the one beneath. The reason for that is, at any point in time, if I want to make changes to this, I can always come back, because we are going to alter the shape. So with the main info, I'll just place it at the center. It wasn't actually at the center. I think it is. So what I'm going to do is, let me zoom in. With the move tool selected, I'll hold down the control key, and you can see if I move over to the edge over here, the cursor changes to this white. Instead of black, it changes to white. If you can see, let me zoom in much more. So holding down the control changes it to white, and what this does is it allows us to deform this. So I'll hold down the shift key also, so that if I move to the top, it is also at a 90 degree angle. It doesn't really change like what you experienced before. So yeah, with that, that's basically what I'm going to do. So I'm going to move this over to the top just by a little bit so that this looks a lot inclined than it usually initially was actually. So I'll have it something like this, and probably also increase the size to whichever size I feel comfortable with. So I think this is looking okay, and I'll place this at the center, of course. Now, in case you want to change a few colors, you can just highlight the text, select the text color, and make it whatever color you want. I prefer having a darker red, so something like this should be okay, in case that is what you are into. Now, once I have this, there are a bunch of other information can add in, like the date. So Saturday, 6th March 2021. You haven't seen anything because the text is also white and it's on a white background. So let's probably change it to blue and reduce the size, of course. So something like this is okay. You can go ahead and play with the colors, and basically this is totally up to you. So whatever you want to do with it, you can definitely do it. So I'll have it like this, place it somewhere around here. And I also noticed they added a time, so I'll also change the color to probably blue and have it in like so. And the last thing is going to be the date itself. So if it's 10 a.m. then we can have it as 10 o'clock a.m. also like this. Then I'm going ahead to duplicate this, so Control J, and I'll put this at the bottom just so I don't have to be aligning it at the same time. So this can be venue, and I can actually add the actual venue, so auditorium. Anyway, this will look good one day. Alright, so the last thing I'm going to do is actually add a rectangle at the bottom just to fill up this empty space I have here. So a rectangle of any size, I'll use the move tool to position it here and here. Click on OK, then I'll double click on it since it is a shape and select a specific color sample from anywhere. I think the rectangle is a little bit too much, so something like this should look just fine. Now obviously you shouldn't be using the exact same font color or font size here, because some information seems more important than the rest. So with this, what I'm doing is actually the time I'll, instead of making it bold, I'd rather go with probably book. Click on OK. The venue, instead of bold, I'll probably go with book and click on OK. Now the time is also very important, so I can highlight that and make it a much bigger font, probably 36 seems ridiculous, probably 30 should be just fine, and I can place that also at the bottom. So basically that is it. You can go ahead and play with a few things if you are interested in that, but I feel much comfortable with what I have in here. Now there's one more thing. I don't like having a blank white background. What I usually do is I add in a black stroke. What I usually do is I add in a black gradient. If you have seen most of my tutorials, you notice that this is something I do quite often. So with the background selected, go into the adjustment panel. That is the fourth icon, or probably the middle icon actually. Then I'll click on gradient. Now there's one thing I forgot to mention. You notice that I changed the color from here by clicking on this default icon here. It makes it black on white, black for the foreground. I usually do this so that I don't have to change the color again. So now you can go into gradient, and I'll change the style to radial. Now you can see it is somewhere at the center here. I'll bring it probably somewhere around here, and I'll reverse it so that white comes before the black instead of black coming before the white. Then I'll increase the scale to about 1000%. So if I toggle off and on, you notice that this is what we get. I think this is looking cool. So basically that is it. There are a bunch of information I didn't really add, but I believe this is a simple tutorial to get you started. So thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to watch more of our videos, hit that subscribe button, and as always, don't forget to share with your family and friends. This is Steve from Final Concept, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.